Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister rubbishes opposition leaders' accusations regarding the sale of Petrotrin refinery to Patriotic Energies based on a document she claims to have received in her mailbox. This story takes the lead in our 985th edition of Caribbean Perspective for Friday 13th November 2020. Details after this important message.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley says that not only is it not a secret that the government put the refinery and port at Point-à-Pierre for sale, he says claims by the opposition leader that a new development was meant to distract from claims against her of plagiarism of a British MP's congratulations to the President-elect of the United States, Joe Biden. During a news conference at the Diplomatic Center on Wednesday, Dr. Rowley and Finance Minister Colm Imbert also said there is nothing preventing the sale of the state-owned assets. TV6's Jewel Brown was at the news conference and filed this report.
So this pretense that something is happening outside of legislation is absolute tomfoolery. And coming from a former Prime Minister, it is getting to the point now of being annoying.
That was Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley's response to claims made by opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar during the UNC Virtual Forum on Monday night about the US $700 million bid for the state oil refinery and port at Point-à-Pierre by OWTU-owned Patriotic Energies and Technologies Company Limited.
To try to pretend that there's some issue about doing this without the proclamation of the procurement legislation is simply to have me ask her, when you were giving SIS that $1 billion contract down in the sea lots, which is now rusting in the bush there, you're so concerned about taxpayers' money and procurement legislation. What procurement legislation you had used to do that?
Dr. Rowley said the matter is a commercial deal between Patriotic and two subsidiaries of state-owned Trinidad Petroleum Holdings Limited, Guaracara Refining Limited, which owns the refinery, and Paria Fuel Trading Limited, which owns the port and other related assets.
The biggest lie was that they were going to sell Petrotrin to the OWTU, their company, Patriotic Energies Company Limited.
But as opposition leader, a higher level of responsibility is required of you. Asking the government if we have a buyer on the side and that we're using Patriotic for some nefarious or nebulous reason. The answer is no. We have nobody under the table. We have nobody under the bed. We have nobody on the side.
Mrs. Persad-Bissessar said she received the documents in her mailbox, including one submitted by Patriotic on October 29th.
Listen to this. Heads of agreements for the sale of what? The refinery. This is the first time we have confirmation that they're also seeking to buy the terminal assets. Terminal assets, which is Paria, that's the when you buy the fuel and sell the fuel and so on. First time.
Finance Minister Colm Imbert said that information was contained in a letter he wrote to Patriotic in September of last year, which was made public shortly thereafter.
Since September 2019, it has been public knowledge in the public domain that the intention was to, if agreement could be reached, to sell Guaracara Refining and Paria Fuel Trading.
The finance minister also described as nonsense a claim by the opposition leader that the deal cannot go through as there is a mortgage on the refinery assets.
We're not selling anything with any mortgage or lien on it. We will deal with that. That is a government matter. That's a matter for the cabinet for the corporation sold. If there is a lien, we can get the lien put on other assets.
Dr. Rowley said the opposition leader was seeking to create a distraction from the controversy surrounding the word-for-word copy of the congratulations issued to U.S. President-elect Joe Biden by British opposition leader Sir Keir Starmer that was posted on her Facebook page on Saturday. That had been followed by her apology for what she called an administration error, which her communications team took the blame for.
So I don't know why the opposition leader believes that she can drag herself out of her dismal condition this weekend by surprising the country with news that she got in her mailbox. Maybe the same place she got Mr. English MP congratulations from. Came to her mailbox, and she got in her mailbox a document that says that the refinery is going to be sold. There's absolutely no news in that. It's an act of desperation.
Jewel Brown, TV6 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Over in Guyana, the APNU AFC leaders and supporters staged a passionate protest of the PPP's first 100 days in office outside the office of the president on Tuesday, describing it as a colossal failure. HGP's Wendell Badri was there and filed this report.
At a peaceful protest action on Tuesday against the PPP's 100 days in office, leader of the APNU AFC party, David Granger, addressed a gathering of supporters on the tarmac of the Square of the Revolution, where he said that the party was there to build solidarity and to stand united with those affected by COVID-19 and other matters affecting the citizenry of the country.
We're here to build solidarity with the public servants who have been dismissed. We are creating today a national movement of solidarity to oppose the oppressive and discriminatory practices of the PPP administration. When we were in government, we were able to bring COVID deaths down to a limit of 1 per week. They're now exceeding 1 per day.
Granger also spoke to an increase in police harassment, stating that during his party's stewardship of the country, the force had been administered in a more professional manner. He further alluded to the recent shipment of cocaine, which was intercepted in Belgium.
There has never been such a horrible cocaine bust in 5 years. Started again. Civil servants are being dismissed. Over 500 qualified civil servants are being dismissed. We're calling for some inquiry to call those persons, some of them young mothers. People have households, they have children. You're sending them in the middle of a pandemic. They can't find work anywhere. And you dismiss them from jobs they're qualified to perform.
The party leader concluded.
We're not shouting at anyone. We're not intimidating anyone. We're not threatening anyone. All we are calling for is that the civil society, the Guyanese people, should inform the PPP government that we will not put up with this nonsense. And we will continue to bring society against them. The diplomats, the unions, churches, all civil society, to protest against what is happening.
Meanwhile, speaking on the sidelines of the protest action, Member of Parliament and representative of Region 10, Upper Demerara, Upper Berbice, Jermaine Figueira, echoed the sentiments of the former president, stating that his party is in solidarity with those who have been affected in some way or the other by actions of the current regime. He spoke to the rise of COVID-19 cases, the alleged unfair distribution of the $25,000 voucher to households in his region, the recent drug bust by KANU, mass firings of government staffers during the COVID-19 era, and the list continues. This newscast then questioned whether there was anything at all that he would like to commend the government for, and while he thought long and hard about that question, he eventually said this.
I think they should be commended for making provisions for a relief for persons who are affected by COVID. But as in my budget debate, I indicated to them that instead of offering $25,000, you could offer $100,000.
Oren Daniels, who was present at the scene, also shared with this newscast that he was employed with the Ministry of Education since 2017 as a driver of one of the David G school buses until November 3rd, when he was terminated for reasons unknown to him.
So I can't understand wisdom because I never do nothing wrong. I never thief, I never do anything, and they just tell me that's the end of me and then taking people off for walk the back. On top of that, I worked 7 months with this bus at the hospital, fetching home nurse, been COVID. The nurses then were dealing with COVID patients. 7 months I worked there. And these people had no consideration for that to keep me on the work. They just say you're fired, just like that.
Wendell Badri, Nightly News.
Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness admits that many of the nation's roads are not engineered roads. He was at the time giving an update on the devastation caused by the recent heavy rains, along with his government's plans to assist affected citizens to rebuild their lives. More in this TVJ News item with Andrea Chisholm.
Scores of people without a home. They've been contemplating what next. In communities like Shooters Hill, rebuilding on the current land is not an option. The government has also been contemplating what to do. The Prime Minister pointing out 2 options under consideration: relocation or providing assistance to rebuild.
I wish to tell the nation that this administration is of the view that where location is recommended after objective assessment, then such relocation must be done.
But relocation, he points out, comes with its own challenges.
I know when the question of relocation is raised, you're going to hear objections. You're going to find all kinds of reasons why the persons can't move. And when you get down to it, it is where the names appear on the voters list.
An assessment of the damage caused by this latest bout of rain is continuing. The Prime Minister says 206 roads have been impacted. This is an increase from the 80 which were damaged during the October rains. 23 of the over 200 roads remain impassable, like this one in Gordontown. Mr. Holness says this road in particular presents a major issue at this time because of where it is situated.
Road sits atop a river channel that is some 80 meters. That is about 262 feet. So from the base of the road to the river below, 262 feet. That's a significant fall off. But that's the other complication, is that there is an embankment on the other side of the road that is about 20 meters or about 60 feet high, which is also unstable.
Engineers, he says, are working on a plan. On the question of why much of the country's road network is damaged easily after a shower of rain,
vast majority of our roads were never engineered roads, meaning that they weren't built to any engineering specification. They weren't planned roads. The Gordontown Road, for example, emerged because it was first a pathway, a track, horse and buggy, leading to plantation, coffee plantations that were in the area. It then obviously became the main pathway, and then people settled in the area. Our governments came, put the asphalt on it, and there you have your roads. And this is repeated all over Jamaica. Take the point, the other puzzling, why have we built roads close to the sea? Again, it is where the settlements have emerged, and we have just followed the settlement path.
Mr. Holness assured the roads which have been impacted by the rain will get attention. But noting more rain in the forecast, he says work will not begin until after.
I am Eddie Frederick, wishing you a restful weekend. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.